Dead Rising 1 is an interesting game to me. I remember first picking it up at a game store for the original Xbox 360 a few years ago in the midst of my zombie craze, and I played it so much to the extent that I actually beat the game multiple times over. In fact, I go as far as to say it's the Dead Rising game I have the most knowledge of, and there's many things that keep me coming back. From the solid story to the iconic psychopaths to the motherfucking G Frank West, this game trounces all the other games in the series. I mean, I like the second and third game, and we don't talk about the fourth one for canon purposes, but Dead Rising 1 is a classic, and I love it to bits. Well, I don't love all of it, however. The survivors of Dead Rising 1 are easily among the most frustrating parts of the game. Yeah, there's going to be a few psychopaths you may struggle with, maybe a timed mission you can't really get to in time, but every single run, you're going to have at least one survivor that makes you want to swallow your own tongue. If you haven't been living under a rock, then you might know that Dead Rising 1 survivor AI is notoriously awful. It's like trying to escort a blind, crippled, spoiled brat who doesn't shower, so insects are attracted to them because they smell so bad. In other words, they're so brain dead that they're more likely to die on the way back to the safe room by their own stupidity than by anything you or any bosses do. Thankfully, I've gotten so good at the game that I've developed a system to get survivors to the safe room without much of a problem, and that
Come
I
on,
smashed
come
all
on,
me by
follow
it.
me!
Not that I still have some issues, of course, and that's why I want to do a sort of ranking video featuring all 48 survivors and how hard it is to rescue them. Just a few notes before we begin. The criteria on how we rank them is based on how easy their mission is to complete, the path needs to take them to the safe room, whether or not their AI is acceptable, the reward they give out or mission that happens upon getting them if it applies, and if getting them puts any other survivors in danger. I should also note that some missions will contain more than one survivor, but some survivors will be ranked a bit higher based on their AI or the situation specifically. Seriously, there's some survivors I find easier to deal with than others, even if they're in the same group. Also, I'm going to be adding in a few scenarios in. I'm basing this off if you're trying to get all survivors as well as the best ending. Additionally, we're going to say that since we're getting all survivors, the iconic bathroom shortcut is of it. Additionally, if a survivor comes with a weapon, this weapon will not be taken from them. However, if a survivor does not have a weapon, then a weapon will be given to them. Trust me, this could actually help out a survivor a lot in the long run. Finally, keep in mind that my experiences with the game are probably going to vary wildly from everyone else's. There's some survivors that players have absolutely loathed the score when they show up, while I have no issue with them, while there's survivors that people consider among the best in the game, while I would rather stick my head in the deep fryer. Alright, let's begin. Numbers 48 to 44, Colby's movie theater survivors. Pretty much all of them make up the bomb spot on this list, and seasoned players know why. In order to get them, you have to first find Shaw, which is already a fairly decent challenge, then untie them, fight the raincoat cult that gather outside, then get him out of the movie theater, which isn't really that hard, but what makes it truly hard is that if you're trying to get all survivors and get the best ending, you need to go at night. And considering the zombies at night are more aggressive, that's already bad. But then it gets even worse considering the sea of zombies between you and the safe room. Getting just a normal survivor in the safe room is a nightmare in and of its own, but it also doesn't help us that these survivors also have some particularly terrible AI. And coupled that with those numerous, insanely aggressive nighttime zombies that are drawing survivors just as Twitch are to making bad decisions, on top of being on a very tight time limit before you have to do the next story mission, and you end up with easily the worst group of survivors to score by a mile. If I were to rank them in order from worst to best, it'd be Michelle, Beth, Nathan, Ray, and Cheryl. With Cheryl being the only one from my history of all survivor runs who's never been too much of an issue, hell, she would technically be in her own separate category considering how she's got her own mission later on. Unfortunately, her being associated with everyone else drags her down a whole lot. Number 43, Kindle. The thing about Kindle is that he would be a lot easier to save in literally any other situation. He's armed with a shotgun which absolutely blasts away zombies, so already that sounds good. However, what absolutely kills him for me is when he shows up. He shows up during the mission where you have to bring Isabella back to the safe room, which if you don't remember, is at night. Not only that, but since Kindle is surrounded by zombies, it's likely he'll get swarmed, forcing you to put down Isabella and risk her getting swarmed to save Kindle. And if Isabella dies, say goodbye to that good end like you could to your father when he went out for milk. It's absolutely ridiculous. I rank him lower considering what he does later, but I think if I did that, he'd be in my least favorite characters Hall of Fame. Pretty much he has one of two mutiny events, and his is admittedly easier to deal with than the other survivors come up since you just need to talk to him, but the fact it exists in the first place doesn't help at all. Number 42, Sophie. I'm just letting this soundbite sum it up. Yeah, you have to savor all the fucking conflicts that drive around giving me post-conflict stress disorder. Back then they were a nightmare since I used to play on the 360, and consider how awful aiming controls were on console, it was pretty much like aiming with tank controls. Nowadays, however, I can deal with the conflicts easier if I'm able to get the shotgun early on, and one can be found when the zombies break into the mall, and grabbing it makes quick work of the conflicts. Plus, whenever I play on the PC, the conflicts tend to get stuck a lot, so Sophie often isn't in any real danger. You kill the convicts, and from then on you barely have to deal with them since you mostly stick to one side of the map. Not only that, but since the convicts exist, the zombies are so far spread out they'll take care of completely shitting herself and run into the zombies for her to be in any sort of danger. And from then on, it's a breeze, even with the amount of survivors you'll have and the fact it's at night and you have a Kent mission to do. She's still really low because of how you need to get the shotgun in order to deal with the convicts safely, and just the fact that convicts exist in the first place. Number 41, Jennifer. Jennifer is only this low for two reasons, and the first and biggest one is because you meet the true I cult here. While I can deal with the cult pretty easily and actually get Jennifer back to the safe room as well, the cult can use that powder if you're not careful, and strip you of all your weapons and put you in a hand-to-hand fight against a bunch of cultists in order to escape. This is especially bad if you have survivors along with you, which in my run I will, and you have to rush back without any weapons to save them from certain death, which often is impossible. Admittedly, the cult's presence is something that pretty much every survivor past her has the risk of dealing with, but aside from the theater survivors, Jennifer is really the only survivor to deal directly with the cultists. The second reason is because once the cutscene starts, you'll be teleported right in front of them, and if you're entering from the other side of the plaza with survivors, that leaves you having to try and quickly kill the cultists while praying to God Almighty that the survivors don't get grabbed by a zombie. To sum up, she's a survivor whose rescue mission requires a lot of risk. Number 40, Lee. Lee is the first of the survivors who meet who have a condition, and I'm not talking a mental condition because that will apply to every survivor. No, I'm talking about a physical condition that requires you to carry them, hold them on your shoulder, etc. And it's by being able to be carried, meaning zombies can't grab you. Lee is the worst of these by a mile. You'll find her on day 1 in the Alfresca jewelry store, and after she does her best zombie imitation, you have to just talk to her for a bit, and you got her. It sounds easy enough, but the problem comes when her AI is also extremely broken. If you don't know what I mean, let me tell you. This fucking counter! Getting out from behind this counter is like trying to get a TikTok broccoli head to get a job. Borderline infuriating and impossible. Bonk! For one reason. You're likely to have survivors alongside you hanging out at the entrance since the conversation with her takes so long. And since they're going to be staying there since you told them to, this results in Lee completely losing her mind and wandering around in circles. Are you sure that wound on her leg isn't a bite? Literally the only way to get her out is to call her over, resulting in the other survivors coming over to join you and possibly getting swarmed. Thankfully, once you get out from behind the counter, it's smooth sailing from here. Just carry her all the way, put her and the other survivors out of the way while you deal with the convicts, drop her and the other survivors off upstairs where you carry Kent, finish up with him, and then take her to the safe room. Easy as pie, hell to get her off behind that fucking counter. Number 39, Tanya. Tanya is found alongside Ross in the shoe store on day 2. You have to make the right choices when dealing with the injured Ross, otherwise Tanya will be down one Ross, while Ross will be up one bullet in the brain. Speaking more about Tanya, however, she's low because she also has a pretty annoying AI, where 9 times out of 10, she'll attack zombies instead of doing what you ask. And even then, she'll still follow Ross, meaning you can't really spam the follow me command. She's also one of the slower survivors in the game, and that means you have to constantly be worried about setting Ross down if Tanya gets grabbed. Seriously, she's as slow as my upload schedule, and not really one I'm jumping for joy for when I have the ability to recruit. Thankfully, if you're doing an all-survivor run, it's nowhere near as bad because then you'll have the shortcut open already, which will make things much easier. But if you don't have it, good fucking luck. Number 38, Aaron. So here's our first survivor that comes along with another one, but is separated. And spoiler alert, his companion Bert is way better. You find Aaron and Bert in an unfinished clothing store on the Alfresca Plaza on day 1, and all you have to do is deal with Bert in order to get the two of them. Aaron is borderline infamous for being the first survivor you're bound to have issues with. He pretty much attracts zombies like how Zorbies attracts liquids, plus the fact he screams a lot makes him one of the more irritating survivors to deal with. Thankfully I've gotten to the point where I perfected a strategy to deal with him easier, and it's called bench. Plus, when you get him, you'll have Bert and Bill with him, two survivors that I'll be talking about way later. Regardless, Aaron is still one of the weaker survivors in the game, and really the best thing I can say about him is that he's got a funny running animation. I mean, seriously, look at that. Number 37, Gordon. I've heard horror stories about how he's one of the worst survivors in the game, due to his cowardly AI, which is fitting considering the Scooby 5 minutes called The Coward. You find him in Alfresco Plaza on day 2, which is admittedly not a great start, as the plaza would be pretty packed with zombies, and considering how narrow the place is anyways, that's not good. You have to beat on him a bit in order to get him to join, and no, I'm not talking about the fact that he's bald at 29 apparently, or he's most certainly the type of guy to get pegged. You kinda have to gently and sweetly kick his ass. From then on, you have options. You can take the route where you come for the entrance plaza and I'd rather slam my head into the cabinet to go the long route for Alfresca. You can also take him outside and deal with the convicts. I'd rather try to think of something positive to say about the Clementine convict to deal with Gordon and the convicts. Or you can do what I do and take him through the bathroom shortcut. However, take too long and you'll start a cold cutscene, and no matter what, you'll be forced in front of the cold while Gordon the coward has to head through zombies to get to you. Fucking brilliant. Yeah, all those routes are not very favorable, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't really have too much of a problem with this AI in playthroughs, it's just his routes that are the issue. Number 36, Alyssa. Alyssa's found alongside Joffin and Brett in the gun shop on day 3, and considering how I'm not talking about them here, you can tell that Alyssa is obviously the weakest of the three. Instead of the shotgun and the machine gun the two are equipped with by default, Alyssa's instead toting around a shitty little pistol. As such, she's the least able to deal with the zombies when they start to swarm her, and couple that with her bad AI, and you get a pretty obnoxious survivor. Sure, you could change your weapon considering she is one of the better shooters in the game, but again, we're going by default weapons. Add on to that, in order to get Alyssa in the first place, you will need to survive the initial shooting that would make even the average Call of Duty player say that's a bit excessive, and then have to have a picture of the air ducts in order to recruit them. If you don't, you have to go all the way back to the vent, wasting valuable time that you could be using like, I don't know, getting into your underwear, making sure Isabella doesn't talk to you again. Number 35, Paul. I know it feels strange putting Paul this far down considering he's a psychopath, but there's a myriad of problems with him. I'm not just talking about his lack of conditioner. You get Paul by defeating him in his battle, then putting him out with a fire extinguisher after he sets his junk on fire. What makes Paul kinda tricky to deal with are two things. First is just the fact that using the fire extinguisher can be pretty finicky. If you manage to get it working, by the time you put him out, half his health has already been shredded, so already when you get him, he's in a pretty bad way. Second is that he's, again, a psychopath that moves all around the store, so there's a pretty good possibility that he'll target your survivors. Then again, if you're me, then you would have gotten the gun store survivors, so not only are they able to hold their own, but they provide enough solid defense to make getting Paul to the safe room a bit easier. He also does give you Molotovs later on, but admittedly, I don't use them because it requires me to go so far out of my way for something I worry is going to cause more damage to myself than the zombies, and really isn't that useful by the time you get them. I guess being able to save a psychopath is cool, but not cool enough to get further. Number 34 to 32, the Chrysalip Survivors. You find the Chrysalip Survivors on the second day of the North Plaza, and you'll find them being held captive in a room next to the home saloon. In order to get him out, you have to fight Cliff, who is, oh fuck me! Yeah, Cliff is a pain in the ass. Cool ass psychopath though. And when you defeat Cliff, although not without shedding a few tears, whether they're out of sympathy or relation is up to you, and you get him out. Immediately the first thing you'll have to do is make sure the doors are open outward, because if not, they'll be hugging these doors as if they're long lost lovers. I'm pretty sure from the look on Ray's face, he's got some demons of his own. After that, you have to get him outside, which can be a bit of a pain considering there's a fair amount of zombies in the North Plaza crowd around here. And then, you have to bring him through the park, which is honestly the hardest part to me. Not because of the convicts that are around here, no, there's really no issue. But what happens at this point is that the zombies are far more numerous outside, and since it will be way faster than free, zombies just spawn in their way, and you'll have to go slow if you want them to survive. If I were to rank them from worst to best, it'd be Barbara, Rich, and Josh. Number 31 to 28, Joe's Hostages. I had to really debate on whether or not to put the hostages above or below the Chrysalip Survivors, mainly because they both have some pretty decent pros while also having some drawbacks. The hostages are found on day 2 being held captive by Joe, and the less said about what she does to them the better, because God forbid this video get taken down. You have to beat Joe in order to save them, and it's an easy fight. But considering how cramped the room is and the fact that Joe can hurt them, on top of the fact that some of them have already pretty low health when you get them, it can be quite annoying. Following that, you can untie them and lead them to the bathroom shortcut. It's an admittedly straight shot, but they all have the hand-holding option, which means they're all quite slow, which is not fun. Ultimately decide which group will go over which came down to which boss or a round fight. And in the end, yeah, Joe wins out by a landslide. Her fight is really easy and features less stupid AI. Plus, at least you can take it through the bathroom shortcut and avoid the park. For more specifics on who I rank over who, it would be from worst to best, Lily, Janet, Kay, and Kelly. Number 27 and 26, Shinji and U. You get Shinji and U on the first day, and they won't speak to you unless you have the Japanese language magazine. This allows Frank to flawlessly speak with them. You know, if it's really that easy to learn rudimentary Japanese that all you need to do is pick up a book, then the weebs will actually go outside. I usually like getting the two of them after getting Greg, and more often than not when I do all survival runs, they're usually among the first I take for the passage. The reason is because zombies pretty much love them. Sure, I could give them guns considering they are some of the best shooters in the game, but at the same time, usually I'll be saving my inventory slots for health, the shotgun I use for whenever the convicts show up, two of the chainsaws for doing bosses or zombies when I'm too lazy to switch, or random weapons I use as to not waste the chainsaw. Usually I give the weapon to you because he's a bit more capable than Shinji from my history of most playthroughs, but even then he'll still be grabbed every so often. Outside of that, they're not that big of a hassle to deal with, and I put you over Shinji. Number 25 and 24, Nick and Sally. Not gonna lie, I don't really have a whole lot to say about these two. You find hanging off the ears of the rabbit in Wonderland Plaza on day 2. After getting pictures to post on your Instagram, you can just use queens to kill the zombies surrounding them and then knock them off in the meter or something. I usually like getting them before Joe's fight, because then I just shove into a store nearby. I have no idea what they do in there, but whatever it is, it's enough for me to beat Joe, get the hostages, and bring them all over the bathroom shortcut. I guess if I had to pick one over the other, I'd say Sally wins out over Nick, only because she's a little more competent than him, and she can apparently get into a fight with Tanya, and considering the hell Tanya put me through, that is cathartic. Number 23, Ross. Speaking of Tanya, here's her boyfriend. I feel like Ross should be lower considering how I mentioned earlier he's one of the slowest survivors in the game, and if you make the wrong choices, you can actually get him killed before you even have the chance to escort him. However, just the fact he's able to be carried is a big game changer for him. It makes him way easier to deal with. And sure, he's with Tanya, a survivor I mentioned way earlier and isn't a good survivor in the slightest, but at least it's only Tanya compared to Lee, who you'll have to manage along with 4 other survivors. He's pretty much a cakewalk compared to her, only brought down by the fact that he's slow as shit and easy to get killed if you're a yes man. Number 22, Ronald. I hate the fact I'm ranking him this high. You find Ronald in Paradise Plaza on day 2, and when you get there, you realize that you're essentially saving a Discord moderator. Just wait for him to call me Kitty and the comparison will be complete, as well as the act of my lunch going from my stomach to the floor. You realize pretty quickly that Ronald is also eating all the food in Jill's sandwiches, and from there on, no more food will spawn there. It's quite annoying considering it's a pretty solid place to get health vibes quickly, but whatever. The trek back isn't too bad. If you're lucky, you will have already gotten Gory back to the safe room while the cults haven't spawned yet. But in the event of neither of those happening, really all you have to worry about is the cult and Gordon since Ronald stays put. Of course, there's this mutiny event where if you don't give him some food to shove in his fat maw, they'll leave and take the survivors currently in the room with him, which is great. If you can't tell, I really hate the survivor, but realistically, he isn't the worst in the game. Number 21 to 20, Jonathan and Brett. Jonathan and Brett are found alongside Alyssa in the gun shop, and as mentioned earlier, they are pretty much a breeze to deal with compared to Alyssa. While Alyssa has the shitty little pistol, Jonathan's equipped with a shotgun, while Brett has the machine gun, and it's the only time you'll actually see one before the special forces show up. Couple that with the fact that it's close to morning time when they first spawn, you get 2 of the best survivors in the game. They pretty much carry the whole segment where you fight Paul, and it can even be pretty helpful if they're lucky, all the way up until you take him to the safe room. Unfortunately they, or in this case Jonathan, miss out on the top 20 just due to the requirements needed to get them. Number 19, Susan. Susan's encountered on day 3 in Wonderland Plaza. She's on top of a soccer ball and surrounded by zombies, and after killing all the zombies around her, you can get her to join. Susan has this sort of weird thing where if you let her go without holding her hand, she'll run for a while before stopping to catch her breath, then walking, then running again. It's pretty much the only time I'm really tempted to hold her hand because holy crap, this can be tedious. and she isn't even that fast in the first place. Thankfully, I haven't had too much of an issue with her throughout my playthroughs, mainly because she's really close to the bathroom shortcut. After scoring 2 of the survivors, I can just run back and grab her. Number 18, Gil. You find Gil in the food court on day 3, being the only survivor to be found there, and when you get to him, you can see that he's completely fucking wasted. Not gonna lie, I can relate. Seeing as my most popular Hell's Kitchen video is what I'm not even proud of, and just listen to it drives me to drink. Anyway, he's sad and shit, and clearly not going anywhere even after you inform him of the helicopter coming. That's until the neurons connect in his brain, and he decides to come along. Due to him being drunk, he can't move very fast, and he's stumbling around like how I'm looking for a midnight snack. You can have him on your shoulder, which will make things much easier to deal with. Usually I like grabbing him and Leroy and putting them by the bathroom exit before getting Susan, which will make things not too difficult. All in all, not that bad for a drunk guy. Number 17, Leroy. Leroy can be found in the Wonderland Plaza on day 3. Wow, a lot of day 3 survivors. Once you get to him, you realize he's acting oddly shifty about a mark on his neck. It seems like he's been bitten. But we're just going to ignore common sense and take overalls here back to the safe room. If I have a weapon on him, I'll give him it, mainly because at this time I'll be scoring Gil and Susan, so really he's the only line of defense. He's also fairly close to the bathroom shortcut, so yeah, not bad. I think you'll notice at this point that we're at the survivors I would consider not that much of a problem, and I think Leroy is a good place to start. Number 16, Bert. Hey, remember Eric from earlier? Yeah, here's his friend Bert, who's about 20 or so spots above him and in the top 20. Anyway, you get Bert by kicking his ass a bit, and he'll join you. Despite him having a bit of damage done to him, Bert is easily one of the best early game survivors. He comes with a bed that he puts to very good use of it, meaning that it's rare I have to worry about him being grabbed by a zombie. As such, he, along with another survivor, carry the first group of survivors you encounter, and consider that you're scoring Aaron, Lee, and Sophie, aka some of the bottom 10, that makes Bert a lifesaver. Number 15, Bill. Bill's the other survivor who carries a lot of the first to score shit of survivors. You find him trapped behind some boxes in a store on the 2nd floor. After praising himself for his obvious weight loss, you can have him join. Bill is one of the best shooters in the game, and if you know where to look, you can give him an SMG, which he absolutely wastes those zombies. Seriously, I think compared to Bert, he's just a bit more useful, as he's a more capable guardian with that gun, and the gun doesn't run out of ammo, which means that Bill has toggled infinite ammo. And you know what? That's fine by me. Number 14 to 13, Mindy and Debbie. These two, they're survivors alright. You find being harassed by Ozzy Osbourne here, you defeat him, and you get them, and that's about it. Paul won't go after him the moment you attack him, instead of running out of the store, and you'll have the gun store survivors with you, so you have a lot of backup to deal with Paul and the few zombies that spawn. I guess maybe there's a chance they'll get grabbed by a zombie or two when you get back into the plaza, but really that's it. They're just really simple survivors. Hell, they're even interchangeable with each other if I'm being completely honest. I guess I would rank Debbie higher since she can use heavy weapons, but that's about it. Number 12 to 11, Pamela and Heather. Pamela and Heather can be found on day 2 in Paradise Plaza. Pamela's surrounded by zombies after being abandoned by her sister who's hiding in a toy store. Just throw a queen to kill a zombie surrounding Pamela and then you can get Heather. Originally I was going to put Heather in her own separate category higher than her sister considering she isn't surrounded by zombies while Pamela is. But then you realize that the two of them are insanely close to each other, and not only that, they're pretty much outside the warehouse, aka the place you have to go in order to reach the safe room. Really wouldn't be much of a point separating them into two categories by just something small. It's like trying to separate Dreamy Young Dairy Dev by which one is less of a creep. Number 10, David. David can be found in the North Plaza on day 1. He's revealed to have injured his leg after being attacked by Steven, This Is My Store, Chapman, and can't walk. David is the first survivor you'll encounter that can be held on your shoulder, and sure, the trek can be a bit tedious and long, but consider that again, he can be held on your shoulder, it's not too bad. Plus, if you really want to, you can save Greg first, then get David, and follow up by grabbing you and Shinji before taking Greg to the bathroom. It's actually way more simple than it sounds, especially since it's the first time you'll be going through the bathroom shortcut. But yeah, David's only really this high because outside the long trek, he's not really in too much danger, and he's pretty damn easy to deal with no matter how you decide to address him. Number 9, Greg. You find being held hostage at the Wonderland Plaza coaster, courtesy of Pennywise's less famous brother, Adam McIntyre. He's a solid boss fight, cool as hell too, and after defeating him, not only do you get one of the best weapons in the game in my opinion, especially since you can get 2 in less than 10 seconds thanks to the cutscene if you turned off the coaster, Greg has something to show you. Admitting this section could be kind of a pain since Greg will stop every so often and wave at you in the middle of zombies, but it's not too bad. Plus, since he's not technically in your party yet and thus won't lose health, you can quickly grab you, Shinji, and the aforementioned David. Of course, the biggest plus to Greg is that he's the one that unlocks the iconic bathroom shortcut. Yeah, I've mentioned this shortcut so many times, but this shortcut is a lifesaver. Could you imagine if I had to go the long way with Susan, Leroy, and Gil? I'd rather eat my own fists. Number 8. Floyd. You find Floyd on the second day in the entrance plaza, and he's one of the last survivors you'll save that day. He's in an antique shop, content with dying there as he sees no reason to live. Not gonna lie, if I had the option of dying in a room filled with infinite katanas and battle axes, I think I'd die happy. Anyway, after a long, tedious, and mind-numbing conversation that is so long that I could probably finish a college essay in that amount of time, you get him. Much like Susan before him, he can't run for long, otherwise he'll get tired, so you'll have the option to carry him. Depending on when you arrive, it's actually not bad considering the Hall family have just spawned in. Let's be honest, they're fucking pushovers. Something I will note right now is that the reason why Floyd is up this high is because once the Hall family spawn, the zombies pretty much become sparse, and considering the entrance to Paradise Plaza is open now, that means that getting Floyd to the safe room is a breeze. Plus he has his own mission where you can have a bottle of wine, which is needed for the transmissionary achievement. Number 7 to 6, Jolie and Rachel. You find Jolie and Rachel in the entrance plaza on day 2. Jolie has been separated from her friend Rachel and wants help to go and find her. Rachel's on the second floor, and once you reunite the two, you can get them. Like with Floyd earlier, I like to recruit the two of them after the Hall family spawn because there's less zombies to deal with. Granted, Jolie might be in a little bit of trouble because there could be some stragglers down there, which is why I would personally rank Rachel over her, but really, it's not too bad. And like with Floyd, the path from the entrance plaza to Paradise Plaza is open, and that makes it easier getting them. Number 5, Wayne. Once more, Wayne is found in the entrance plaza on day 2, and when you go to get him, he's being attacked by the Hall family. Again, the Hall family are pushovers, weak as sin, clearly worthless, so defeating them is easy as hell. Getting Wayne, you'll realize that he's one of the faster survivors in the game, and as such, you don't really need to worry about him that much. I say why he's also easy to save, but that being redundant, so I'll talk about the fact that out of everyone who's in any place but Paradise Plaza, he's the easiest to get. Great AI, only locked behind a boss battle that you can win if you're not a fucking moron, and the boss itself despawns a lot of zombies. Really what's only keeping him from getting further is just the fact that it's easier to get survivors than him. Number 4, Tad. Not gonna lie, I was pretty tempted to put Tad higher than he actually wound up being for reasons I'll get into. However, there are only 2 things to prevent him from getting much higher. Don't get me wrong, he's still easy as all hell to escort, but the requirements to get him could be a big pain in the ass. For starters, you have had to complete all of Ken's missions, from the first mission that is more or less a tutorial, to the second mission which requires you to have taken a sexy pic, which is not even mentioned to you by the way. Failure to complete any of these quests will lock you out from Tad, and sure, this can be mitigated if you have the foresight to take a picture beforehand like the vent, but at least the vent had a PP sticker that would have given you points so you had a reason to take a picture in the first place. Here, or at least in my case, I never found any reason to take one. Then there's where you have to get him, and there's a big emphasis on have. The scoop where you can encounter Tad starts at 12 o'clock, but in order to get him, you have to get him before 12:05, otherwise Tad will die. That's an extremely tight time limit, and consider that even if you make it, you have to fight the really annoying Ken, which makes things even more awful. However, the main reason he's up here so high because after all the leaps and hurdles you put yourself through before Vanilla Ice's Barber is finally defeated, you're rewarded with one of the easiest to escort survivors in the game, because fighting Ken will despawn nearly all the zombies in Paradise Plaza. This is a massive relief. So, all in all, Tad has a lot of requirements to get, but once you do get him, it feels like you just got off a shift at Dollar Tree. Number 3, Simone. Simone is found on day 3 in Paradise Plaza and is probably going to be one of the last survivors you encounter alongside Tad. Simone is revealed to have been bitten and needs encouragement before being brought back to the safe room. Simone is located in the CD store, a place that's really out of the way of zombies, and thus, you don't have to worry about any of them coming towards her and add more bites to her. Additionally, as mentioned earlier, after you fight Ken, the whole plaza is pretty much wiped of zombies, meaning that after defeating him, you can grab Simone and take her back to the safe room without much of an issue. However, this isn't possible if you got Kindle, which I will have, since Kindle's betrayal will be starting first, and by the time the call finished, you only have seconds before Tad becomes unavailable. I am aware that in order to save her, you can't save Dr. Barnaby, but we're trying for the best setting, so that's pretty much moot. Overall, yeah, Samoa's super easy to get Survivor with or without defeating Kent. But of course, there's some survivors that are better. Number 2 and 1, Natalie and Jeff. Natalie and Jeff are the first survivors you'll find in the game, and they can be encountered the moment you leave the air duct for the first time. It's pretty much impossible to miss them, since Jeff will literally be in view the moment you start moving. All you have to do is reunite them despite them both being on the rooftop, see your moment, am I right? And you got them. To add on to this, they have a PP opportunity, and no, I'm not talking about taking upskirts. I'm talking about extra XP you can get for taking pictures at certain times. While I haven't really mentioned these moments too much, I bring it up now because their moment is probably the most useful in a new game run. It's pretty much a free level up, and trust me, if you're starting at level 1, you'll need all the levels you can get. I guess if I had to pick one over the other, I'd pick Jeff since he's closer to the safe room, but really, that's about it. Anyway, that's it. Every Dead Rising survivor ranked. I can't tell you how much hell I had to go through getting the footage for this game, and in fact, while recording this, some of my opinions changed as a result of this. I still love the game, however, even with all the survivors that make me want to feed myself to zombies. I'd actually be super down to rank the Dead Rising 2 survivors, hell, maybe even the Dead Rising 3 Possum members as well, and I would love to avoid Dead Rising 4 as much as possible. But until then, this has been EternalOpossum, signing off.